Welcome to the FitBiz Accelerator, your ultimate guide to launching, growing, and scaling a thriving online fitness business. I'm your host, Tobias Young, and whether you're just starting out or looking to take your business to the next level, this podcast is packed with actionable tips, real-world strategies, and the insights you need to crush your business goals and build the business of your dreams. Now that you're here, let's dive in. Yo, welcome back to the FitBiz Accelerator, the show where we break down the real world strategies to help you launch, grow, and scale your online fitness business. Today, I've got someone on the show who truly needs no introduction in the fitness game. This is Jason Phillips, the founder and CEO of the Nutritional Coaching Institute, a former cover model and pro athlete, and one of the top mentors in the industry for fitness and for nutrition professionals. He's written for Men's Fitness, authored multiple best-selling books like Macros Explained and Macros Applied, and has been featured on more than 50 podcasts, including Mind Pump, Barbell Shrugged, and Renegade Radio. And in this episode, we unpack his evolution from coaching clients to building a world-class certification and mentorship brand. And the biggest mistakes coaches are making today, we're going to go over that and how to set yourself apart in an industry that's more competitive than ever. Let's dive in. Jason, welcome to the show. I've been looking forward to this one for a long time. You've made a huge impact in the online coaching world, from transformational coach yourself to founder of NCI. So let's take it back. Let's start with your story. How did you go from being a cover model with Optimum Nutrition and ABB? That's where we know each other from, if some of you guys recognize us, right? We were both sponsored athletes together way back in the day, back when we were young bucks, and pro athlete to building NCI. What was the moment you knew you wanted to build something bigger than just like one-on-one coaching?
Man, so long story short, I'm not even sure I was supposed to be in the fitness industry. Like I was an anorexic kid, at 18, 19 years old. And honestly, when I went through anorexia, I also contemplated suicide. I was at this low point in my life where I was like, man, if this is what life is, I don't want to live it. And, fortunately for me, it was a coach that helped me through that and helped me overcome anorexia. And so, I recognized that change from a coach was such a vehicle that truly saved me. It really changed everything for me. And I said, man, that's what I want to do for a living. And so, fortunately for me, I got into coaching, but I was like virtually every other coach on the planet. I didn't know anything about business. And so I would love to say that it's always been sunshine and rainbows, but it hasn't. I struggled for nearly a decade, and my turning point was Thanksgiving 2014. I was on a trip with a girl I was dating at the time. Everybody that knows me knows I have a love affair with Starbucks. And so I went to get my coffee that morning and I got declined. $3.60, I got declined. And the reason for that is I was overdrawn on my bank account. And so here we are, bank holiday. I couldn't afford coffee. Like, you want to talk about a low point. And I left that trip and I kind of had to come to Jesus with myself. I looked in the mirror and I said, either I got to figure this out or I got to get a job. And, I always joke, but I think it's the truth too. I'm the least employable person on the planet. I'm a walking HR red flag, but I also just I'm not great with wanting to work for someone else, right? I have a lot of ideas and I kind of march to the beat of my own drum. And so, fortunately for me, I figured it out, man. I made $1 million that year. And so, come late 2016, I was at a mastermind in SoCal. A good friend of mine, Craig Ballantyne, was there. And Craig looked at me and he's like, bro, you're making $1 million and you're leaving so much impact on the table. And I said, like, what do you mean? And he said, dude, you got to teach other people to do what you're doing. And I was like, do you mean a certification? And he was like, yes, that's exactly what I mean. And I was like, dude, PN's already out there. Why do I need to build a cert? And he said, no. He's like, you've clearly figured out something else. And I was like, okay, well, how do I do it? And in typical Craig fashion, he looked at me straight in the eyes and he said, figure it out. And that was it. This was December 2016. And so I had to drive from Santa Monica, California, back to my house in Scottsdale, Arizona. Long drive for anybody that's done it, 6 hours, very boring. And I'll never forget, about halfway through that drive, I figured it out. Like, it hit me like a ton of bricks. And the last 3 hours of the drive flew by because all I had was this thought on my mind and I was letting it just go crazy. And I pulled into my house. I ran into the house. I didn't even take my luggage out of my car, ran straight to my desk and I wrote this outline. And to this day, the outline hasn't changed. That's how much clarity I had as to what I was going to do. And I knew that I had a framework that coaches could use to completely revolutionize how coaching was being done. And really what I set out to do was to solve the problem of application. You and I, we've come up in this space together. We knew a lot of really intelligent, talented people. But really, we knew a lot of intelligent, talented, broke people because they didn't know how to take what was in their head, apply it to the clients that were in front of them, and build a business with it. And I said, that's a big problem. Here we have an obesity epidemic that is climbing. Here we have all of these knowledgeable practitioners, and yet nobody's figured out how to bridge the application gap. And that's what NCI was built on. And fortunately for us, people agreed with us, and we've been able to build a lot of success in it.
Man, that's amazing. Like just going back from, probably broke and then making $1 million in your first year, like of like really going at it. Like that's like a 1 in a million as far as entrepreneurs. Everybody's kind of like, that's kind of like the gold standard, right? When you first get into fitness. Well, at first it's 10K and then your next is like
Yeah, 10K, bro. Everyone's got to get the
10K. That's right. And you're known as the guy behind NCI, obviously, the best, one of the best certifications in the entire world. What was the original vision for NCI and how has that kind of evolved since you first brought it to a board?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would love to sit here and be like, man, this was all the master plan, but I'd be lying. Like when I launched NCI, the story, like the real story of NCI, like y'all are gonna get the truth. So, I wrote this thing December of 2016, sat on it, like I took no action, and my imposter syndrome was like level 1 million. And I was like, the Alan Aragons of the world and the Lane Nortons of the world, like they're gonna come in and they're gonna rip me apart, right? And they're gonna uncover every little piece of this and dispute it. And I was like, gosh, like I'm setting myself up for exposure. So then April 2017 rolls around. I was dating a girl that I knew I was about to marry. She wanted a $40,000 engagement ring, and I'm laying on her couch sick while she's at work. And I'm like, how in the fuck am I going to make $40,000? And I'm like, what can I sell 40 units of for $1,000? And I'm like, well, I mean, if I had my certification, I could be selling seats for $1,000. So I call a place in Chicago. A friend owns a gym. I said, hey, if I do this certification thing, I'll comp your staff. Can I do it out of your facility? He's like, 100% yes. I was like, great. Can we say end of July? He's like, 100% yes. Like, you come here whenever you want. I'm like, all right, facility lockdown. So then I'm like, I need customers. So I go to Facebook and I write like this like amazing copy. Like even John Romanello at the time was like, dude, that was some of the best copy I've ever read. And I'm like, maybe 5 or 10 people will be interested, and maybe I'll sell 2 or 3 units, right? So I write this thing. I'm like, comment below if you're interested. Bro, 90 comments in like a matter of hours. And I'm like, okay. I call my assistant and I was like, the first 40 people that sign up, send them $1,000 PayPal link. First 40 people that sign up, they're in. And she's like, what are they signing up for? I'm like, certification. She's like, where is it? I'm like, I got to write it. She's like, what are we giving them? I'm like, here's the outline. And bro, like I had built so much trust in the marketplace. People knew I would deliver, and they signed up knowing, like we were very transparent about this. Like we didn't bullshit. We weren't like, oh yeah, it's this thing, it's written, it's amazing. I was like, no, here's the outline. I'm writing the course now. And everybody bought in. And we sold 40 units in less than 2 hours. And I was like, well, fuck, I still got 150 other people. I like called a place in DC. I called a place in Austin. I was like, hey, can we do these dates? They were like, yup. I told her, I said, go back, 80 more spots just opened. We sold out those 80 in the next 36 hours. And so in 48 hours, I had made $120,000. I was able to buy the ring. But more importantly, I had the foundation of what became NCI. So, I booked a hotel room out west on the ocean, Laguna Beach, and I blocked out 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. every morning for a week. That became the crux of my writing. I took it home, blocked out that same hour. My co-founder at the time, God bless him, rest in peace, Travis Zipper, he and I, we wrote the whole thing. We were finalizing all the edits the final week. We delivered the very first one at Windy City Strength Conditioning in July of 2017. And dude, it just immediately, I knew this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to work with coaches to develop their skill set. Admittedly, I was starting to burn out a little bit on the one-to-one coaching, and I just knew there was a bigger place for me and for us as a company. And brother, I've loved it ever since, man.
That's freaking fire. Oh my God. I don't think I've ever heard that whole story. I think I've heard maybe like a few little kind of bits and pieces, but I don't think I ever heard kind of the whole thing on how it started. That's pretty freaking amazing, especially inside there too. So you also opened up earlier. about how you had struggles in earlier years. You said for like a decade. What were some of the biggest challenges that you had to overcome in the beginning?
There's so many, dude. I'm going to step out of that and give you a statement, and then I'm going to step back into it, which, I was just asked a day or two ago, what separates the highest performing coaches from those that are kind of stuck at like lower levels? And my response was that it's nothing tactical. It's largely personal development. And I think that the highest level coaches have done so much personal development work, or perhaps they haven't needed to. That's just, they were blessed with that level of like, self-development that they needed to be successful. And it wasn't marketing, it wasn't selling, it wasn't, any of those things. And so that's like my like lateral step. So as I step back in, I think I needed a lot of self-development. Rewind, I was an anorexic. My anorexia was really just a massive insecurity, right? Like I became anorexic because I was insecure around my body. I thought I needed to be more ripped for women to like me. I needed to be more jacked for dudes to respect me, right? Like I grew up a skinny kid, 130 pounds when I graduated. That was pre-anorexia, right? And so like I just never really felt like I had a presence. And so, as I got into the space, I was still very insecure. Did I really have the knowledge to be able to change the lives of people giving me money? Could I really handle this business thing? And so the manifestations of that were several over the course of a decade. I remember, dude, we were in Body Space at the same time, right? So bodybuilding.com had a social media site. And I was like the very first ever spokesmodel. And bro, like online, like we're talking, fuck, dude, 2012, 10, like we're talking way back in the day, right? Bro, I was doing 7, 8K a month. And I completely shit on all of it because I got insecure. Like I let it all go. And I was like, what am I doing? So then I would get a job and I would hype myself up. Oh, I'm going to get a 401k and I'm going to get all the benefits and I'm going to do the adult thing. And then I was fucking miserable and I would quit. And then I would try the online thing. And I never had full commitment because I never had full security. And finally around 2014, where it became a necessity, I said, I got to do it, right? I got to do it. And I really think that like, that was everything. I needed a better skill set, of course. I needed to learn some marketing. I needed to get comfortable with sales. But the reason that I think most early entrepreneurs do not learn marketing, they do not comprehend sales, is because they don't comprehend themselves yet. They don't know what they want, but more importantly, they don't know who they are and what they can offer to the world. And if you're not supremely confident, if I'm going to put 100 people in front of you that need your services, and you're not supremely confident you can transform 99 out of 100, if not 100 out of 100, your subconscious is going to kick in. You're not a sociopath. You're not going to take money from somebody in exchange for something you can't provide. And so all of a sudden, you'll start to self-sabotage. And bro, I did it for 10 years.
Wow. Okay. I know a lot of people go through that as well, and they have self-doubts. I think every coach goes through that at some extent as they're kind of getting started. They're like, there's so many other coaches. Remember how you're kind of comparing yourself to Lane Norton and these guys, and
Yeah.
are they going to tear me up? And I think every coach kind of has that. Why would I be successful if all these other coaches are already established or have so many other followers and so forth? And I know you also talked about mentorship. So what's your philosophy when it comes to mentorship, and what makes a good mentor? And then what makes a coach coachable?
Man, what is my philosophy on mentorship? First of all, I have always known that somebody else has made the mistakes that I don't want to make. Somebody else has done the things I want to do, and that the fastest way to do that is to pay them. And so from the very beginning, I've had mentorship. I won't sit here and say I've successfully used mentorship all the time, but I've always had it, right? Like I'll never forget the first mentor I paid. I joined a mastermind. It was like $800 a month. And that was a lot of money to me at the time. And I was like in this room, I'll never forget. I left there, I was all hyped up. And then I went home and I did absolutely nothing. And I left the mastermind the next month, right? So like I've always had it. I've always understood the importance, but I won't say that in the very beginning I understood the importance of execution because I was a shithead and I didn't. So I've always believed in it. Now, I will liken early stage mentorship to early stage like coaching programs, where I think early stage coaching programs lacked connection at a high level. And so when I built my coaching program in 2014, I openly said, I am not ever going to be as smart as Lane or Alan or Eric Helms or any of these guys. Like I'm just not. They're academics. It's who they are. They spend time in the journals, and like, I hate that shit. And so, but what I was willing to do above and beyond is I was willing to connect with you harder than any coach ever. And see, like, I had hired every coach under the sun, bro. Like, I worked with Hani, I worked with Chris Aceto, I worked with Scott Abel, I worked with Lane, right? Like, I had paid them all. And all of them were phenomenal coaches, all of them. But I never felt deeply connected to them. And I'll never forget, like, I always felt like I was waiting on that email. Like, I would send an email and I'm like, oh, when am I getting the email? When am I getting the email? And like, I was like, God, if I could just text them, it would be so much easier. And like, I'm not the kind of person that's going to blow you up endlessly, but if I need to get to you, I need to get to you. Right. And like, imagine I got a call one time from Muscle and Fitness. They're like, hey, we want to shoot tomorrow. Well, what do I do? Like, I didn't know at the time. How do I peak myself? Like, how do I make, And so I sent an email to my coach. Well, I didn't even hear back from them until after the shoot. I'm like, thanks for the fucking advice, right? So like there was a gap. Well, I think that same gap existed in the business world where there was a lot of programs out there where there was phenomenal information, but it lacked a face, it lacked a connection. And so I stepped in and I said, well, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that in the business world the same way I did it in the nutrition world. And I think that's what I've always hung my hat on. But now, conversely, I do believe in the business world because I love it and I'm so passionate about it. I do believe my skill set is supreme to most of the people in the space. That's not braggadocious. I just think that like I've learned things and I've seen a lot. And obviously, I've taken a coaching company to a level that most people in our space have not. And I think that combined with my willingness to connect has really been like my secret sauce. However, I also think that I'm very strategic with partnerships. You and I are getting ready to do something together. I've done some things with some very big names. I've been on some very big podcasts. I know the power of collaboration and connection. I do not have a scarcity mindset. I think that there is endless amounts of success for all of us. And I think that honestly, man, like I have such a strong core desire to see everyone win. I think that's what has catapulted me into, the multi-8-figure level.
Nice, man. And, we're at a time right now when everybody's pushing content online. And what do you think separates the coaches who are actually winning from the ones who stay stuck or stay, like they're just hitting 10K every single month or 20K and they're not able to break past that barrier?
Some of it, like I said earlier, is that personal development side. I don't think people have done the work to really understand why they are where they are, and more importantly, why they're not where they're not. I think they wake up every day with, things that they think they should be doing, but they don't really understand the intent. So I think that's a big one. Another one is I just think that like people aren't ready to evolve. They get very stuck. And it's like, they equate it to somebody that came into the dietary world, did their first bodybuilding show on a keto diet, and they think that's the only way to ever get ready for a show, right? And I'm not saying it's the wrong way. Like it clearly works, but there are other ways. Like you absolutely can carb cycle. You can use a low fat, high carb approach. You can use carnivore if you want to. There's lots of different ways. And I think that business is the same, but I think that, business is absolutely going to have and is going to be impacted by other variables that, like right now, I think that with a pending recession, I think that brings about a trust recession. And when we look at the last 5 years, COVID was a large responsibility for this. COVID brought a lot of coaches into the space that shouldn't have been in the space. And a lot of coaches collected money from individuals that they should have never collected individuals from or never collected money from. And a lot of coaches under-delivered on what they promised. So therefore, the marketplace has been flooded with shitheads. And the consumers in the marketplace now have a barrier of trust that is significantly higher. So we have to overcome that. Well, if you're not adapting your lead generation strategies, your nurture strategies, and ultimately your sales cycles to that, you're going to struggle. And so I think that coaches just aren't willing to do that. They get very stuck in their ways. And most importantly, they become very transactional, right? They go out, they see client equals dollars, and that's it. They don't really see the cycle of a business. And I can tell you, if you're a coach and you're just spending every day and every week and every month, and you're like, how many clients did I get? That ain't a business. That's a job. You work for yourself, but it's a job.
Yeah. And I think too many coaches focus on the front end and not enough on the back end. Like as soon as I started just focusing on my delivery, it's like, holy shit, it just changed the game. Like then you don't even have to really focus on the front end, because then, your clients will just stay with you forever. You can have upsells that'll continue working with you. They'll start referring you people in there. And, obviously you always want to have some kind of front end strategy in there too. But I think that's one of the things that also with those coaches that weren't as, shall we say, like, good in a simple way, right? Or they didn't put the time and the effort into actually learning their craft, and they just wanted to make a quick buck in there too. But let's talk about nutrition coaching specifically. So for newer coaches that are trying to build trust, how can they balance out science with simplicity so that way coaches don't feel overwhelmed? If we kind of switch gears a little bit.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm so like, I have so many beliefs when it comes to this. I think you need to know your shit, but I don't think you need to like beat your chest to the marketplace and be like, I know my shit, right? Because at the end of the day, and I'm going to say this very bluntly, but I want to just inform your audience. I don't mean this disrespectfully. I just want it to come off blunt because you need to hear it this way. At the end of the day, a fat person wakes up in the morning and says what? They say, I don't want to be fat. The end. They don't wake up in the morning saying, I want to know more about protein. I want to know more about carbs. I want to know more about fats. I want to know about carb cycling. They're just like, I wish I could take a pill and not be fat. And so like when you go out as a coach and you hang your hat on how much you know about fucking protein metabolism and carbohydrate cycling and this and that, like nobody fucking cares. And it's like this big dissonance because at some point you need to know that shit. I'm not saying that you don't need to know it, but it's not the information you have to put out. And I always joke, I play the character of an idiot online, right? I always am like, oh, I'm the dumb guy that just says fuck a lot. But like, I know my shit. I also know how to market and become relatable, right? I don't ever present myself as this dude that is all knowing anywhere. So I think there's this blend. I think that you have to really know your stuff. Again, I think product quality is the single greatest predictor of long-term success, right? Product quality combined with individual ability to delay gratification, really, in my opinion, are always the predictors of success. And I think that on the front end, we need to be able to articulate and become hyper relevant to the mindset of the consumer. And so when we understand that the mindset of the consumer is never, ever in the weeds of knowledge, then we now need to start learning marketing and principles of relevancy, where we can now become present, omnipresent, and ultimately facilitate conversion. But I think a lot of coaches miss that mark.
Yeah. And if you were to narrow it down to just one single skill set for 2025, right? Because obviously things are different this year than they were in the past. What do you think is the single most important skill set for a fitness or a nutrition coach that's looking to develop if they want to grow long term?
So simple, dude. So simple. And this is probably going to fly in the face of what virtually everybody thinks. I think it's self-development and connection. I don't think right now you have to be the best marketer in the world. I don't think right now, I can guarantee you right now, being the best salesperson in the world is a useless skill set. I think that the single biggest problem that online coaches are going to face this year is the trust recession and the lack of trust in the marketplace. And that's never going to be overcome with some cheesy ass persuasion topic. That's never going to be overcome with some cheesy ass sales script. It's going to be overcome by being a genuine person, by being able to facilitate connections, right? And that's only going to come on the back of you having the self-development to get to where you want to be.
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
I love that, man. Yeah. That's so freaking.
And people don't want it to be that simple.
Yeah.
Right? There's so many people that are listening right now and they're like, no, it can't be that. It can't be that. And it's like, I get it. I was you. I didn't think it could be. But I'll tell you, like, I just got back from like a 2-week trip, right? I took my daughter to Disney. I'm gonna humble flex for a minute because like I want people to know what's possible when you smash it in this space, right? I took my 7-year-old daughter, her 2 best friends. They each have, parents that like single parents, just like I am. And we got a private jet. We took them down to Disney on Friday. They went VIP all day Saturday. They had an amazing day at the pool Sunday. They were VIP at Universal Monday. And then we flew back, right? Like it's every 7-year-old's dream. But let me tell you, like, while that's absolutely amazing, my routine was fucked. Like I didn't get up and do my morning work once. I didn't do my night work once. I did wake up and go to the gym early on Monday, right? But like me personally, when I got back to work this morning, I had 3 hours of morning devoted time like I always do to work. And I felt very lost. And I was like, wow, this is what it's like to be without the level of development necessary to facilitate success. And I made a commitment to myself. I'm like, fuck this. Like, I absolutely neglected it. I didn't not have time. I simply neglected the necessity of doing the work that I need to do. And that's not okay. And so, people that don't believe in it, I get it. It's okay. You still think there's some magic trick that's going to blow up your business. But I can assure you, and I'm sure you can assure them, it doesn't exist. But if you, the person doing all the things, if you, the person driving the vehicle, if you, the person making the connections and making the sales consistently improve, then everything in your business improves. And people just don't want to see that. So it's hard because how do you make that sexy? And you don't. And so our job as coaches and leaders is to get you to understand the sexy shit works, right? But then I also need to remind you that the sexy shit doesn't work if you don't work. And a lot of people don't want to take that responsibility either. And that's very difficult.
Yeah. Well, two things. One, that's pretty freaking badass that you were able to do all that stuff. You definitely flexed and ripped off your freaking sleeves. Second of all, I can relate, man. Anytime I go out and do anything, I mean, I love taking my family to trips in Hawaii and all those fun things, but man, it just throws me off. It's like, for some reason, I love work, like doing what I do. And it's just like, when I get out of that, if I don't have the connection with, my clients as much as I normally do, if I'm not eating how I'm normally so regimented, if I'm not working out how I normally work out, everything just kind of gets out of whack. And I can't wait for it to be over, unfortunately. And I just can't wait to get back to my normalcy in there too. So
Yeah, we're getting ready to do a training in our community next week on, we're calling it like the operating system. And I don't think a lot of coaches have been taught how to operate, right? So like we've all been taught how to market, we've all been taught how to sell, we've all been taught how to fulfill. Like no one's been told, like, I'm going to say this and it's going to sound weird, how to live, right? How to operate. And so, I mean, like we're very big on like 4 dimensions. And I really believe that coaches, you need to prioritize the physical vehicle that you live in every day, like your body. You need to prioritize your own personal development because if you're stagnant, your community is going to be stagnant. You need to prioritize the connections in your life, your significant other, your children, your family, because if they're not happy, why the fuck are you doing anything? And of course, you need to prioritize your business. And I don't think any of us have been taught how to balance all of those things, right? And I tell everybody, you can have it all, but you have to focus on having it all. You're not going to have it all by winning at business. You're not going to have it all by winning at your physique. Those are very like independent things they lack connection to the other dimensions of your life. And I think I see so many early entrepreneurs over indexing on business, under indexing on the other areas. And then like, we get on a call and it's like, hey, are you coming to the event? No, my spouse would kill me if I left again. And I'm like, that's not your spouse's issue, by the way. Like that's you. You haven't fucking poured into your significant other in like the last 90 days. Of course they're gonna fucking leave you. Like that's understood. It's like, oh, well, I just thought they sucked because they didn't support me. No. Like you don't support them day to day, so why should they support you? Oh, I don't have the energy to work, 12-hour days like you, Jason. Well, that's because you're too busy shoving a fucking Snickers in your mouth. Like, you stop at the goddamn drive-through twice a day and you blame it on being busy. No. Like, get your shit together. And so I think that a lot of people underestimate how all of the dimensions connect with one another. But when you're living a life of having it all, then you can have it all. We just have to set that framework and we have to set that operating system.
yeah, no doubt, man. And obviously you've been able to do that for the coaches inside NCI, and NCI is now you got it back and brought it back in house. I bet you're freaking just top of the moon. What's been your proudest moment or your milestone so far with NCI or your personal journey that you can share with us?
Man, proudest moment. Taking my daughter on stage at the first coaching con. There's pictures of me just holding her and she remembers those moments and she was petrified of going on stage, but she now speaks about wanting to go on stage.
Wow.
And I think, my mom was there for that. We had just lost my dad. And I think it was a family moment. And, nothing I've ever built was just for me. It was so that my family could have everything. I think that's it, man. Like, it's the first thing that comes to mind. We've changed the lives of thousands of people. I've built, I had a girl in our community who had recently lost her mother when she signed up with us. And she went from having effectively $0 to now she's a multimillionaire. I mean, I'm very proud of all of those moments, but, I think I would be lying if I said that the selfish side of me is just very proud to be able to build a life for my family. And I think every entrepreneur should prioritize that. But man, I think that I guess I'm also most proud of the notion that I get up and I do it every day. I don't think a lot of people understand. Like I am no different than anybody in this world. I don't think that I'm more intelligent. I don't think I'm more talented. And I want to be very transparent. I'm probably the laziest human being on the planet. And I think that I've become a multi-eight-figure entrepreneur primarily through commitment and commitment to winning when it's great and commitment to continuing to persevere when it's not great. And I don't think a lot of people understand how hard that can be at times. So I'm also very proud of that, of perseverance, man. I have stories that have never been told where I'm down to like $16 in the business bank account. And I'm sure you know that. It's fucking hard at times. It's lonely at times. And I'm still here talking about it. So I'm also very proud of that.
Yeah, that's deep, man. And I think every entrepreneur that has made it has failed so many freaking times. And that's the reason why they succeeded, is because they just kept getting up. They just kept getting up.
I agree.
Getting up. Yeah. I don't even remember how many times I was just flat broken. I just kept moving forward. And it's just, I was blessed to have my wife's support, and she believed in me and everything in there too. I just said, hey, I'll make it work.
And you are, and it's dope. And I think that, I think it's also so important to have an amazing network. I know that, there's multiple times where in like the last year, I remember when I lost my dad, you sent me a text, when I've been down at times, you've messaged me. And like having friends in this space that want to see you win is so critical. Having a network in this space of really good people is so critical. And I think that coaching programs and masterminds, sometimes they get a bad rap, and rightfully so in some of them. Like there's some assholes out there for sure. But I also think that just having your community of people, man, like it's one thing I've always been so blown away with you is every time I've had the opportunity to come in your community, like these people love you, dude. And like you've built such an amazing connection to your people, and they're all connected to one another. And I think that's really cool too. So, just acknowledging you, but also like to the entrepreneurs that are out there, like you don't have to be lonely. You don't have to make it a lonely journey. It's lonely enough, man. Like you're the one when you put your head on the pillow, like everything depends on you. And so, find a good group and have people that are there ready to run the race with.
Yeah. Thanks, man. That means a lot.
Absolutely.
And I think that's so important too. Everybody needs to have that community, and that's what we rely on. You were talking about how now, you're a multi-eight-figure entrepreneur, which is fantastic. And what's something that people don't know about the work that it takes behind the scenes to run a brand at that level?
Yeah, I think that's such a good question. I've never been asked that question. I think more people should ask that question. Such a good question. Everything changes. Your identity in the company changes. And if I'm being completely honest, I hate it. Like you go from being in the trenches of service and connection to being a manager of people. And like at the highest level, when my company was doing $1.8 million a month, I was a glorified fucking babysitter of my C-suite. And, I say that a little bit tongue in cheek, but I was the manager of people. And dude, I'm not sure I can manage myself. Like I don't have that skill set. Like, and I've openly acknowledged this. One of my weakest skills is leadership, and I'm working to improve it, but I don't feel like I'm very good at it. And so I had to learn to delegate. And I actually was having a conversation with a good friend today that as I just bought NCI back like less than a month ago, the team I have today is actually adept at being able to do things. And for the first time in my life, I actually feel like I can outsource some things. And I've made a commitment to myself that I'm going to let the team fail at times and not step in and not do things for them because they need to learn. And that's fucking hard. And when you're playing the game with over $1 million on the table every month that you're responsible for bringing in, I'm just going to give you numbers. My payroll at the time was about $350,000 to $400,000 a month. And so every 2 weeks when you got, almost 200 grand coming out of your account, like you don't have time to fuck around. And so I think that leadership becomes extremely important. I fought it with everything in me because I fucking hated it. And again, like freely admitted, present day, April 2017, 2025, I suck at leadership. So before everyone's like, he was so bad. Yep, I was so bad. I'm still really bad. I'm working on improving it.
No, it's humility and that's humbleness at the full extent. And, you've been featured on dozens and dozens of podcasts. And if you can leave this audience with just one message to remember, what would that message be?
There's one you. No one's coming to save you, and you're going to die. Because I've lived this life where I thought I needed to be something or someone different, and it never worked. And every time I've been authentically me, it's worked. I've lived this life where I thought other people had my answers, where I thought I needed to listen to other people because I thought they knew something more about my life than I did, and it didn't work. And I've also woken up to absolute tragedy, and it's a stark reminder that absolutely nothing is guaranteed. And so when you wake up every day, you have a choice. You have two choices. There are two things in your control each and every day, and only two things. You can control your actions, what you do, and you can control your attitude, how you feel about what you do. That's it. You cannot control anything else. When God says it's time to go, it's time to go. When people respond a certain way to your actions, that's on them. And so choose to be the person that God made you to be. Choose to do the things that you know in your heart you should be doing, and maximize each and every moment on this journey. And if you do those things, you've already won. Like, the finance will come, the success will come, but those are the things that come before any of the material things.
Well spoken. Jason, this episode has been packed with gold. And for anyone listening who wants to learn more about your work or possibly get mentored by you or by your team, where's the best place to connect with you?
Yeah, man, I think the best thing is just hit me on Instagram at Real Jason Phillips. I don't have any VAs in my program. Like, I work directly with people, and I love connection, man. Send me a message. Let me know how I can help. And, I think that's the start of everything. I don't take on that many people anymore, admittedly. Like, we're not trying to grow anything massive, but if it's the right fit, if you got the right questions, like, by all means, let's chat. And if I can help you or point you in the right direction of someone that can, I'd be more than happy to.
Nice. I love it, man. And thanks again for being on the show, brother. I know our audience is walking away better because of this conversation.
I appreciate that, man. And thank you for putting this together. You take a lot of time and energy and pour into this to put out a resource where you're bringing guests together so that your audience can grow. And so, I always find it appropriate to acknowledge you for your time and your energy and your efforts. So everyone out there that's listening routinely to this podcast, you guys got a great host, you got a great leader.
Thanks, man. Nobody's ever thanked me for having the podcast. I appreciate that.
100%, bro.
Thanks for tuning in to the FitBiz Accelerator. If you found value in today's episode, make sure to subscribe so you never miss a tip or strategy to grow your online fitness business. And if you're ready to fast track your success, don't forget to check out tntfitprocoaching.com. Until next time, stay consistent, stay focused, and keep crushing it.